Happy Sunday to you guys. Good morning. Good morning. I know I've been doing Saturdays, but I've told you I've been really busy, so just getting these recordings out whenever I can. Hopefully, you guys had a great weekend so far. So, looking at our things on the month, we're still watching the VIX because the VIX is still in this downtrend. Now, we were looking to see if it was going to move up, continue this little bullish activity it had the previous week, but nope, came right on down, two down. So we still have room for this to go down. We now have, remember, we have a new 2-week bar starting tomorrow. So we now have a shooter on the 2-week, and if this goes in force, we can definitely see more bullish activity in the market. So keep your eye on VIX to continue. It looked like it had its corrective activity, and it's just coming on back down. So it's interesting to see what will happen with the VIX in the next week or so. Also, if y'all notice, I didn't start out with any economic data today because we don't have any this week. Yay! Now, granted, we do have that Thursday, normal Thursday stuff, the jobs data. But other than that, there's no CPI, no PPI, no NFP, no Powell, no nothing. So, interesting to see how this week is going to turn out. Looking at the dollar, now remember, we were in this range. It finally broke through this range, and it triggered the month down. It hit the first target, but it does still have more room to go. Now, mind you, I'm actually not sure why this is so off. Wait. Oh, that's why. Because it was off. It's supposed to be something like that. See how you could sometimes play around a little bit with the broadening formations, but you kind of get that right there. Lower low, TTO. And it broke through. Now, with broadening formations, we look to see if they broaden. Okay, so is this going to expand this down? If so, we do have a long way to go. And remember, this was ranging for months, and it finally broke through this range and broke through the support of 100. Remember that support we've been talking about for a long time, that was the support that it had. It broke it. So really interesting to see if it continues on down. Then you have the weekly where, ooh, yikes, doesn't look good. And then our daily, there you go. So again, there's still room for it to go to the downside, so we will keep that in mind. The NASDAQ. So we haven't quite hit the top of that broad information that I've had on this monthly. To hit it, it's going to be 16,039. And then if we do want some more upside, we do have this swing high over here that we can target. First, it would be 16,522 and then 643. Now, mind you, this is on a monthly chart, but NASDAQ has been green. We're not fighting the trend. And we are just being cautious because we know that we have been green for a long time. Look at this on the 2-week bar. There's like no red. No red. So, would like to see some correction, but, I mean, look at this right here. The last time it did that. Okay, it went up. It corrected for probably about a month and then kept going. Corrected, kept going. Corrected, kept going. So, if anything, we may correct at least here to these EMAs. But otherwise, we're in the bull run. So, yeah, if you notice though, last week we were talking about how, we had this bearish week and we were wondering if we were going to get more of a correction. We got some, and if you noticed last week, a lot of things took out the previous week's low and then reversed, and we were prepared for that as well. Especially with SPY, because we knew we had an inside week, so we knew that it could turn into an outside week, and that's exactly what it did. So now we have this outside week. By the way, if it does continue, it's just going to be a 3-2 up, and you can take it on up to the top of that broadening formation. On the day, however, we do have a shooter. Okay, almost shooter. It's not quite a shooter, but we do have a red 2 up. Okay, that gapped up. They may actually call this an evening star. Kiki, if you're watching this, comment and tell me if you think that this is an evening star. It's a new pattern that I'm learning, y'all. But basically, at the top of an uptrend, what it is when a candle gaps up and retraces. It usually, I believe, it ends more as a doji, but it's always at the top of an uptrend. So really interesting to see what this does. Now, granted, we have done this the last couple of Fridays. Look at Friday. Last Friday, it was red, right? Monday, we opened up. We were red. We came out. We took out last week's low, and then we reversed for the rest of the week. So we probably will repeat that same pattern. That's actually what I'm looking for. Is for Monday for this 2 up, 2 down to go in force. I don't know necessarily that we're going to come all the way down and take out last week's low, but at least some correction. Mind you, we do have these 2 gaps here on the day that we could correct to. You see here when we gapped up, we came back and filled that gap within a few days. So that might be what we're aiming for. So to the downside, this 15,377 and 15,136 is what we're going to aim for on the daily as correction. And then I gave y'all the upside targets. On the Dow, this one's still stuck, y'all. It's still stuck. Oh, I'm supposed to be taking this stuff off. Sorry, y'all. That's all I want to hear. Yeah. So it's still stuck, but you can see we're sitting at this resistance. So this could honestly do like the dollar and finally break out of this area right here, but you would need to watch it. Right now, time frame continuity is completely green, and you have a 3 on the week. So if this does a 3, 2 up, your next target is going to be that 348. 354, and then it may go. So with the Dow, you want to watch the main things in the Dow to see if they can still continue this movement. But otherwise, notice that for probably about 4 weeks here, 5 weeks, it's been sideways. So this 3, 2 up would break it out of this range here. And looking at it on the daily, we are still above our 200. We do have a, well, this is not really it's a possible rev strat, but this candle right here is more like, I think they call it a hanging man. It's not like a shooter that gives us a real actionable signal. However, if it does break below this 344.49, it will give us a rev strat, and we can target the 343. And then you got these areas of interest right here where it may come down to correct. So if you see this gap area right here, it's gapped through here a couple of times and has not ironed out this area. So if anything, I would think it would come down here to this 341 to iron out this area before it decided to move on up. So that is the Dow. IWM kind of looks similar to the Dow, but we are finally breaking out. We are still we finally broke that 188 resistance that I was talking about last week, but now we're at the next one, which is around 192. So if it can break through there, then 199, 200 is what I'm looking for. Okay, on the 2 week, no real actionable signal, but you can see we've been green. Now, granted, the last time it did that, it had a hard correction. Okay, so we will still be mindful of that. Again, same thing here. It's a hard move up to these EMAs, but then it fell. The difference is here, when it hit these and it fell, they were way below. It's given the 200 some time to catch up, and now on the weekly we are above those. And if you look, you see all of these EMAs are trying to cross above these. So if it can hold above there, then we can really, really stay bullish. Okay, because we are also above our 200 on the daily. Almost all of our lines have crossed up. So even if we have some corrective activity and then go, it'll still give time for these to all catch up and be above the 200. So, no actionable signal here on the day, though. Looking at the Qs, it's going to look just like NASDAQ. So the next upside target for the Qs is 401 for 402 on the month if it's got some strength. Remember, we have earnings season starting this week, so that could be the catalyst to push a few things. For instance, with the Qs, if Netflix goes for its gap, then we can definitely see something happening. Again, no actionable signal here on the 2-week, but on the weekly we have that outside bar. So if it does a 3-2 up, then 390 is going to be the, actually I think it's 386 was my next target. No, it's 390. I don't know where I got 386. Oh, I'm on the week. 386 is on the day. I'll show you that in a second. But 390 on the week, and then that 402 on the month, like I was telling you. Where I got 386 from was this daily. I can't tell y'all where I got 3. I had that in my head on Friday, and I'm not sure why. But 386 was my next target to the upside, but it looks like more like 390. However, again, we do have this possible evening star on the daily, meaning that we could correct, especially with these 2 gap ups. Now, granted, just because there are gap ups there does not mean that they will be filled. But if it does do a 2 up, 2 down, then that's going to be your targets here. And then we would expect these bulls to continue to buy the dip like they have been doing. Again, you always want to let the charts tell you, but the way we have been seeing it is, we have our corrective activity, and then the bulls are buying the dip. So the only way we would change that is if we were to break at least this 20, because you can see we haven't really broken and held below that 20 in a long time. We would have to break that, and some of these EMAs to start crossing down for me to say, hey, we might be starting to turn a little bearish. Otherwise, look for corrective activity to buy the dip. That is basically what the market pattern is right now. All right, so SPY. I'm sorry. Okay. So this is going to look a lot like the Qs. Green, 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 green. No actionable signal on the 2-week. Just green. And they have been buying the dip. There is no outside. It did not do the outside week here. I thought that it actually took out the last week's low, but it didn't. It just did the 312 up. And then we hit that next target, which was that 450. That's what I was looking for last week, I told y'all. And then the next one I'm looking for is 457, 458, and then this 462 if SPY wants to continue. This is going to be that major swing high over here, now that it took out that 450. 450, I think, was a pretty solid resistance as well, though. So it would really need to push past that and hold. Now remember, 440, it was doing the same thing. I expected to do the same thing around 450, which would kind of coincide with giving us some corrective activity, because we hit that 450. Maybe coming down to fill this gap. Maybe, maybe not. But 443 was a strong resistance at first. So I'm thinking that that is going to be a solid support. If we blow past that, we may actually see some real red. Otherwise, I expect it to correct down to there and then continue back into the trend. All right, Apple. Not really doing much on the month, still inside, but mostly we know that it has hit huge super highs, all-time highs. So we are expecting some corrective activity, and we got it really in the form of the last couple of weeks. So the 2-week, we do have a 2-week signal here, a possible 212 up or down. However, this is more of a hammer than it is a shooter, indicating to me that we may be bullish. Then you also have a ref strat on the week. This is almost a hammer. So if Apple can break above 192, we can target those all-time highs again, that 194, and then it may continue to that 196. And remember, we had 200 as our final target before we were to redraw these broadening formations. But we had our corrective activity, and the bulls stepped in right here where we expected it. So looking to see if they continue that to the upside. If they do, then we can expect the VIX to fall, the Qs and SPY to push up to the upside. So that's how that is looking. Is also a rev strat on the day. So the rev strat on the day could trigger the rev strat on the week for Apple to move to the upside. If you can see, we had our correction, our sideways activity. This is almost a flag. So really interesting to see which way it breaks. If it does not break to the upside though, and it breaks to the downside, then we could start seeing some real corrective activity if Apple, and especially Microsoft, also decides to fall. Because Microsoft also has reached all-time highs, set at the top of the broadening formation, and then it wicked off of this. Twice now, it's wicked. So really interesting to see. You have an outside week here, which is just basically a new broadening formation. So if Apple wants to go to the down, Microsoft wants to go to the downside, find support here at this 325 on a 2-week. Looking at the weekly, it's basically stuck inside of here. So we did this, chop, 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 took out both sides. Now it's just a gamble on what it's going to do. It ended mostly bullish, so it can definitely 3-2 up and go to new highs. Again, psychological targets. After 350, we would want 355, 360, so on and so forth. So still way above our 200, but we do have a shooter on the day where it wicked at these all-time highs again. So I really am expecting, at least for Monday, to have some corrective activity. We have a gap here at 332.90 if it wants to come fill that. Okay, Meta, I know I usually don't talk about this, but I have been talking about it for weeks. This was an awesome swing. It finally filled this gap here at 316.48. See, finally filled the gap. So now that we have filled the gap, it's really interesting to see what it's going to do. Earnings for this is July 26th. So not quite sure, but keep your eyes on Meta because it's filled the gap, but it still does definitely have another swing high it can go for if the market stays bullish. Okay, another one I wanted to point out was Netflix. Netflix has earnings coming up this coming Wednesday. So this could really go either way. There is a gap here that is unfilled at 507 that I'm thinking if we are bullish and it beats, it's going to go for that gap. So I would keep my eyes on Netflix to possibly fill that gap. Also, if it does not beat and it decides to die, it has had this slow grind up. So if anything, I would expect it to correct down to this 200. Okay, then of course it may not do anything. Last earnings, you can see it didn't do much, but it ran afterwards. So it may be something that needs to wait until after earnings to kind of see what it does and how it plays out. All right, so let us look at some of our 2-week setups because some of them will trigger these outside month setups. All right, so we have been talking about Starbucks. So before we even get to the 2-week, let's go to the quarter because we were talking about Starbucks because we were expecting Starbucks to possibly trigger this 3-2 down. Okay, it did. You see I still have my alert here because it did, but it came back in. All right, so now Starbucks could possibly outside month. It is close to it. It's really only about $1 from it, but it is struggling to get over that 102. So if it does, you do have this possible rev strat on the 2-week. So if that could have been the TTO for the quarter for sure, and we could reverse. If so, then our target is going to be this 105.83 on the 2-week for this rev strat, and that 2-week will help us finish this outside month. Okay, Google is another one. Again, this is a 3, so this could 3-2 and then come back in, or it can 3-2 up and continue up. If it does, it has triggered the outside month, so our target will be 129.04 if this can go ahead and finish pushing. So your 2 week 3-2 up can finish the outside month. BA has a possible rev strat here on the 2 week. Remember, again, this is 2 weeks, so you definitely want to give yourself time for this to play out. But if it does break this 208, it could possibly come on down to 200. And then you have Apple. Remember, I already told y'all about Apple. It could 212 in either direction. You have ZOM that gave you this 3. We've taken out both sides. So you want to see if this will continue. Mostly because if it does continue, ZOM will trigger the quarter down. It's sitting right there. So like it barely triggered it, but we want to see if it does like a Starbucks and triggers it and comes back in, or really continues to go. So 98, it can definitely continue going down to. There's no monthly signal here, but we do have this 3-2 down if it wants to continue. And then McDonald's has an inside week. This kind of looks a little bit like Apple, so it can definitely go either way. It unfortunately won't trigger anything, but if it goes to the upside, it will do a 3-2 up on the month. Of course, McDonald's already hit all-time highs, so you know this could also be some corrective activity. You just have to see what it does. So then you got your 50% month again. Ones that have not triggered yet are PG. It came close and then came back up in. So watch this actually for either way, because we know that 50% is an area where people can buy or sell as well. So because it came and went back in, this may now actually 212 up on the month. So this could go either way. If it doesn't 212 up, then you can expect it to outside month and come on down. Walmart is another one. It has not triggered yet, so I would wait to see how it acts around this 152 area. Google, we talked about, is in force. Run is also in force. We talked about Starbucks, and SE is another one that is in force and could possibly go to this 66.37. I don't believe, well, yeah, this had, I forgot to include this on this. This has a possible 3-2 up, which would be, I mean, it's kind of a reversal continuation type of thing. But what I like these because it says, okay, we TTO, bulls stepped in, now do bulls continue to that 66.82, which would give us that outside month. Okay. And then lastly, we got our weekly list and what I will be looking at for the week. I already told y'all about Apple. I'm looking for this possible rev strat or that 2-week trigger. The same thing with BA. We have that 2-week shooter, but we also have a shooter on the week here, even though it's green. Looking honestly to see it break out of this range. So I really would like, I don't really want to trade this range. I really would like to see it break, but this is also kind of flagging, so it may not break down. It may only do like some small correction and then continue up. Your inside weeks. Nike. So Nike gave us our rev strat a couple weeks ago. Now we have an inside week, so it could possibly 212 up or down, but this is green and strong. So McDonald's also has a double inside week, which is why that 2-week was inside. So really looking to see which way this is going to break. Then of course I told y'all about the possible outside months. Those are some things I'm watching. These plays do not have weekly triggers or weekly actionable signals. However, they have triggered them monthly. So these will be things that I will be looking for, maybe some corrective activity to take back into the trend to finish the month out. So UPS could still get up to here to this 198 if it continues for the month. You got PayPal that has triggered the monthly to the upside as well. 76.73 is the target. CVS has not triggered yet. However, it is close. So 72.91, if it wants to push that to the upside, then that will trigger the monthly. And remember Dollar Tree. We were talking about Dollar Tree for the longest, mostly looking at it on the week because it was getting tight right here, right? I'm going to delete these now. And we see that we're breaking out. That breakout is also triggering the 3-2 down, 2 up on the month. So as long as we hold up above this 147.13, we should be good to move up to that 161. Remember these month triggers, even though I'm looking at them on the week, I'm expecting them to take the rest of the month to fill out. So you want to give them at least like a couple of weeks on those contracts. And then other things that I'm watching that have been moving because they have triggered something is HD. It's right at the trigger, 316.55. So if it holds above this, then this may be a decent quarter swing because it's a rev strat on the quarter. So we're going to be looking for it to get to about 347. So this would be a, by September contracts, even October type thing for HD. CAT is another one that has already triggered the quarter to the upside, had your corrective activity, and now we have a target of 266. And then new is another one. It triggered and it came back in, but as long as it holds above this 165.31, then we're looking for this 182.33. So that's what I have for the week for you guys. I believe that's everything. Yep, I think that's everything. That's all I have for y'all. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and happy trading this week. Be safe. Bye.